everybody, my name is Emma and it has been forever since I vlogged like this on my camera on top of a music stand instead of the tripod that's literally about 4 inches away from the music stand, with my laptop as an underlight, windows open because it's not winter anymore, and when I get home from school, even at 7 p.m. it's still bright outside. Oh my god. So yes, my name is Emma, this is just like how it used to be, and let's get back into Cosplay 101. Today we are talking about measuring tricks and tips and how not to fuck up like I used to do. Now when you're measuring, sometimes it might be difficult to get things like, oh, I need to know how long my arm is in a certain way, oh blah blah blah. So a friend can help you do this sort of stuff. Now first things first, find a friend and then get measuring. So basically first things first is you're going to need a tape measure. Sometimes when I was really little, like before I knew any better, I used to try and like guesstimate stuff using a regular ruler or a flexible ruler. Nope, you need a real tape measure. This one is 60 inches, so that's 5 feet, which unless you're doing something really long, you're doing like a dress and it needs to be like, how long is it from this to the floor, sort of thing. This is pretty good. Another thing that you're going to need is to wear, especially for cosplay, any modifications you're going to have on your body. If you're going to be wearing a chest compression vest like I am for my Robin cosplay, and my Link cosplay that I'm hoping to do eventually, and my pretty much every single cosplay ever, because I like to do guys and non-binary people for some reason, you're going to want to wear that when you're measuring. If you're going to be wearing fake breasts or fake muscles, or if you're like wearing a corset or any sort of anything like that, you're going to want to make sure when you're measuring to put that on. Also when you're measuring, you're going to want to make sure that when you're actually taking your measurements, you're relaxing and like breathing normally if you're doing stuff up here. Like if I'm wrapping this around because I want to see how big my chest is, you're going to want to have it be snug and then take a big breath and relax and see where it falls. This is also true for not like holding in your stomach or not being really rigid, because my chest, I'm just going to use the chest for a lot of these visual examples, I guess. My chest, if I'm being very rigid, is 34.5 inches. If I relax and breathe normally, it's 36 inches. It's an 1.5 inch difference that will make you uncomfortable. Another thing is, if this is something that you're sewing and not just like, I'm going online and it says this is for people with blah 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 to blah 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 inches or centimeters waist, you're going to want to make sure that you're allowing your measurements to have seam allowance. Now seam allowance is basically the difference between where the edge of the fabric that you cut is and where you're actually sewing it, because you can't sew directly onto the edge of most fabrics unless you're doing something like a blanket stitch or whatever serger something fancy sewing bullshit things. So if you're a really good sewer and like you're working with something that doesn't fray a lot at the edges, you can do a smaller seam allowance. If you're more of a beginner or you're working with something that frays a lot, you'll want to do like a bigger seam allowance, like up to 1/2 inch sort of thing. A lot of patterns will already have a seam allowance built in, and they'll show that with a dotted line around it. And you can also adjust this yourself. Another thing that you're going to want to remember is to make sure that when you're measuring that you're not having anything sag down, like, oh hey, I'm measuring my chest, but the back of my thing is all the way down here and it goes up. Oopsies. Now my chest is at relaxed 34 inches and that's wrong, which I've also seen a lot of bra salespeople do. Stop it. the difficulties of being a woman. Another thing is to make sure that you're taking enough measurements. Like, if you're making sleeves, you're going to want to make sure that you go around your, like, wherever it's going to hit. Like, if you're doing a sleeve here, you're going to want to measure how big you're going to want it to be on your wrist, elbow, upper bicep, and then the length all the way down on the top and on the bottom, because they are different lengths. If you're doing like a fitted top, like an armory type piece, you're going to want to do it up around the armpits, over the top of like the biggest part of your chest, below it, and then, you know, length where the darting is going to be. This is getting a little bit more complicated into sewing. And that you can look up more tutorials, or it might be like in a pattern that you're using, that sort of stuff. If you're purchasing like clothing, like especially men's clothing, pants are done by, first is the waist, second is the inseam. The waist is just like around your hips, or like right above your hips area. And then inseam is from where you want it to hit on your foot up to where your crotch is, basically. So on dress shirts, the smallest number is around your collar. Like mine is opposite end. I could do the math, but I don't want to. Mine is 14.5. And then from the middle of your back, like right between your shoulder blades, down to your wrist. And mine is like, yeah, 28. There are a lot of tutorials for this stuff. And another thing when measuring is, especially when you get to the fabric portion, is to measure twice, cut once, which has happened far too many times, which means that I had to get new fabric to redo stuff. And so now I just got a lot of fabric that I can't use for the thing that I wanted to use for, so I need to find a different reason to use it for. Oh my god, I'm not allowed to Joann Fabrics without supervision, because I will try to buy everything. That's like the biggest tip I can give you. Measure twice, cut once, measure twice on your body, twice, 3 times, whatever, on the fabric, and then you cut with good scissors. Alright, so I hope that this might have helped you to, you know, get some basics on how to measure and not make all of the mistakes that I used to do. And hopefully won't while I am making my Robin cosplay, which is actually happening. Oh my god, woo! So there are going to be a lot more vlogging as I'm making it. So you can expect some of the beginning parts of that starting, I believe, next week. And that is all I've got for you guys today, and I will see you next time.